The word for word of the Sanskrit is apara, iyam, itaha, tu, anyam, prakritim, vidhi, me, param, jiva bhutam, mahabaho, yaya, idam, daryate, jagat, apareyamitastvanyam, prakritim vidi me param, jiva bhuta mahabaho, yayedam daryate jagat, apareyamitastvanyam, prakritim vidi me param, jiva bhuta mahabaho, yayedam daryate jagat, apareyamitastvanyam, prakritim vidi me param, jiva bhuta mahabaho, yayedam daryate jagat, apara, inferior, iyam, this, itaha, besides this, tu, but, anyam, another, prakritim, energy, vidhi, just try to understand. Me, my, param, superior, jiva bhutam, the living entities, mahabaho, almighty armed one, yaya, by whom, idam, this, daryate, being utilized or exploited, jagat, the material world. Translation. Besides this inferior nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mind, which are all living entities who are struggling with material nature and are sustaining the universe.
The five elements that Krishna describes before this are the material nature, material energy, material energies. In chemistry they have a periodical chart of many different types of chemicals or elements. But Krishna summarizes into five: earth, water, fire, air, and ether or space. Those are the five gross material elements. And there's three subtle elements that are also material: mind, intelligence, and false ego, or identity, sense of I am. These are the 8 material elements of the universe. But if you take these 8 and you combine them any way you like, they don't come alive. There's no consciousness. So, without a conscious living being, we cannot explain all the living entities. But still, the world is basically accepting that there's nothing beyond matter. If you ask them to explain life, they cannot do it. They say, they theorize that life is a combination of material elements. Their whole science is based on that. Those are the foundational principles. We don't accept there's anything beyond matter. And they criticize anyone who proposes that there's something like something spiritual. They say there's no proof for it. I would say the proof for it is that it exists. And it's completely beyond our ability to reproduce it with material elements. There needs to be some element that's beyond material, because the material qualities, earth is not alive, water is not alive, air is not alive, fire is not alive, and space is not alive. And mind is not alive, intelligence and false ego. There still requires some extra element. And Krishna is explaining about as simple and explicit as it can possibly be. Yes, that extra element is another energy of mind. Krishna claims that the material elements are coming from him. That's another thing that is inexplicable to science. Where does the earth come from? Where does water come from? Where does fire come from? How does that work? They don't know the source of that. They don't know the origin. They don't know the technology. How is earth able to grow so many different types of plants, and so many things come from earth? So we can't reproduce earth. We can't reproduce the material things, and the spiritual thing is completely out of our category. It must be something supernatural, beyond nature. And Krishna says, yes, I'm the origin of everything, and from me come these material elements, and there's a superior energy called the Jiva Bhuta, or the Atma, the soul. If you don't accept this, then you have to explain. You have to have a better explanation, not just that a theory, an assumption that life comes from matter. There's never been any proof that matter comes alive. Here's an experiment we can consider. When we were born, in our bodies, most of us weighed about 6 to 8 pounds, something like that. So if we think we're the body, and that's all, we're nothing more than the body, then we would expect that 7 or 8 pounds body would be at least making up, it would be in this body. Is it in this body? Anyone think it's in this body?
You mean to say it's intact somewhere?
No, not intact. Any part of it. Of course, to make that theory even slightly plausible, that we are the body, at least you'd have to have that complete constituents of that body would have to be here also. But let's not say you have to have the whole body here. Is any part of it here? No. None of it. So what does that do to your theory that you're the body, or that the body is life? Finished it. It's finished. Because the body's not here, I'm living without that. If the theory was I'm the body, that body's gone. But I'm still living. So then you can say, okay, I was that body, now I'm not that body anymore, now I'm this body. Okay, but if you say you were that body, but now you're not that body. So what is you? It sounds like you are something different than that body. Because that body's existing and it's not you anymore. It never was you. You never were that body. And you're not this body either. So what are you? What has remained the same? Here's a question. What has remained the same in that body, that little 7 or 8 pound body, and the body we have now? Someone may say DNA. But DNA is also a physical thing. It's not there. Even the mind is not the same. You might say the mind is the same. The mind of a baby is not the same as the mind of a grown man, a grown woman. So none of the material constituents of that body are the same as this body. But something's the same. And that something is the spirit soul. That's the only thing that has remained. Every other cell of the body changes. You can speak to an expert on these subjects. I've discussed with them. They say according to their science, all the cells of the body are completely changed every 7 years. So that means if you take it 7 years, if you're 35 years old, you've had 5 completely different sets of bodies. But you're the same person. Your mother still recognizes you. This is my son. You take a picture and say, no, excuse me, ma'am, this is not your son. Here's a picture of the son that came out of your womb 35 years ago. You can see it's not this person. She says, no, it's the same person. Say, but ma'am, it doesn't look anything like this picture. There's nothing the same. She says, no, it's the same. It's my son. Don't say that. She becomes emotional. The son says, mother, it's okay. So what is the same? The soul is the same. The body's not the person. Actually, the body changes at every single instant. It's a different body. You agree? A completely different body? Or just a little bit different? Who says completely different? Right, completely different. It's completely different because the aging process has acted on every cell. Every part of the body is aging. Not only that, but the whole universe is changing, the air is changing, the heat. So everything is changing the whole body every instant. It's a completely different body. It may appear to be almost exactly like the body that we saw a few seconds ago. But that's just because our senses are imperfect. If we actually had some kind of instrument that was calculating all the cells of the body and all the and the influences on each cell at every instant, we'd see total change, change, every instant. That's just our imperfect senses, or we're subject to be illusioned. So why is Krishna making such a big point of this? It comes out in the Bhagavad Gita because it's the basis of our existence to understand what we are. How can we live our life if we don't know what we are? Imagine if the parents taught their child, and my dear boy, you are an automobile. And the child grew up thinking he was an automobile. He was trying to drink gasoline. Seems ridiculous, doesn't it? Seems like a death wish. If I teach my child to drink gasoline, the child won't live very long. Won't be very happy, won't be healthy. But that's what we're doing when we teach our children that they're the body. We're teaching them that there's something that they are not. And they won't be happy, and they won't be healthy, and they won't live very long. But the soul is eternal. The soul is not subjected to any of the influences of matter because it's not matter. It can't be burned. It can't be moistened. It can't be withered. It can't be cut. It can't be exploded. It's a different energy. It's impervious to anything material. It's eternally an individual soul. And that's a person. A person doesn't have to be big. It's not that something big is a person. A person can be small. You agree? Yeah, just like the embryo in the womb, small. little embryo. Is it a person? Yes. Or there's a person in there. Let's be more accurate. There's a person inside that embryo, even though it's small. So we learn from the Vedas, Keshagra Shatabhagasya Shatada Kalpitasya Cha. At the size of this spirit soul is 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. So the soul is a person. In the spiritual world, the soul has a spiritual form. Right now, we're not seeing the spiritual forms because the spiritual form is covered by material form right now. So we're just seeing material bodies. We're not seeing the spiritual forms. In the spiritual world, they see the spiritual form. And those who are spiritually advanced can see the spirit. Even in the material world, they can see the spiritual person within the body. In the spiritual world, everyone's in their spiritual form, with no material coverings. But that's the real existence, that's the real world. And the material world is just a reflection of that. It's like taking a reflection of a tree standing near a lake. There really is a tree, really is a lake, but if you're just seeing the reflection of it on a mirror, it looks similar, but it's not the same. So the material world looks like it's real because it's a reflection of something real, but it's not real. You can't take those fruits from the reflected tree and eat them. But you can take a fruit from the real tree and eat. This explains why we're not happy here. How happy can you be eating reflected oranges? How satisfied can you be eating the oranges and apples in a reflected image? How happy can you be trying to have a relationship with a person in a reflection? Very good. It's going to lack some depth. You say, I love you. It's empty. You're saying it to an image. The image won't talk back to you. There's no reciprocation with the image and the reflection. So this is why everyone's having a hard time in the material world. We're trying to enjoy matter. We're trying to enjoy this material world, which is nothing but a reflection of the reality. And all of us are under the illusion that we are these reflections. We are made of matter. It completely changes your whole outlook on life. You immediately say, well, I want to get out of that illusion. I don't want to continue like that. No wonder I'm suffering. No wonder there's problems. I don't want to put my children through that. I want to save them from that. Then enter Krishna Consciousness, the solution. Hear from Krishna. Krishna explains exactly what's happening, exactly what life is, exactly what matter is, exactly where we came from, the spiritual world, how to go there, how to solve all the problems. Why not take it? Have you got something better? Anyone? Have you got a better program? Okay, even if you don't have a better program, maybe you can argue for a plausible case. Anyone like to present a plausible idea that might be acceptable? Okay.
The idea that if I'm not the body, then maybe I'm mind, and I can just go around and enjoy the different things. And
without a body?
Yeah, not a body.
I'm saying without a body you can enjoy?
No, the body's there, but it's not. We're not the body.
You said if you're not the body, then you want to enjoy just being a mind.
Yeah.
So you don't need a body?
I think I need a body, as far as I know.
Well, actually you've brought up a good point. There is such a thing as having a subtle body and no gross body. You get a mind, intelligence, false ego. And that person is called ghost. There are ghosts. They have the subtle body but no gross body. But they're not happy. Ghosts are unhappy beings. Because they're frustrated. They want to have a body, they want to enjoy their senses, but they cannot. So they try to invade someone else's body and enjoy vicariously through them. That's why nobody really likes ghosts. I mean, except some people may like them. But I haven't met too many people that like ghosts, but I guess there are a few. Most of us don't like ghosts because they keep trying to haunt us. So that's your solution to the problem, is to become a ghost.
So what if I say that, okay, there's nothing after death. I'm just this body.
But then we talked about that earlier. You said there's nothing after that body, but that body's gone and you're still around. So it's a contradiction. If there's nothing beyond, when that body's gone, you're gone, you shouldn't be here now. Because that body's gone. Yes?
So I have a question. Would a material utopia, at least in theory, like the idealized version, would that be detrimental to spiritual aspiration?
What would a material utopia be? To live forever?
No, we would still suffer, birth, death.
Then that's not very utopian. If you still suffer the same things, what's so utopian about that? Utopia means no problems. Utopia means it's great, it's solved all the problems. So it's not a utopian, it's a pseudo-utopian. Our pseudo-utopia means to go to a nice hospital and die there with some tubes up the nose. That's our utopia. But we don't want to die at all. So the utopia is the spiritual world. And that's what we all want. When I was a young boy, I saw Peter Pan. And Peter Pan was living in Never Never Land, and no one ever got old and they never died, and I loved it. I said, that's where I want to go. But my parents told me, sorry, it doesn't exist. I was disappointed, but that's where we want to go. That's Krishna Loka. That's Vaikuntha. So why don't we accept that? The oldest teachings in the world, the most venerable culture in the world has produced this information. Why don't we accept it? We'd rather accept, no, this is it. You're made of chemicals. When the body's dead, that's it. So just enjoy your senses. Don't worry about anything. That's our theory. But yet, we're not satisfied with that because we're still trying to live. We don't like dying. We don't like growing old. We're trying to stop it. But we're trying through material means instead of spiritual means.
It was already, the argument was already brought up by you.
Okay. We can open the floor now. Any other? Yes?
My question is, like you have very well explained, why we are not the same body that we are born with, because all the cells in the body are constantly dying and regenerating, so that body is not there, so we are not the body, right? But we are the soul, like you explained. And the soul is eternal, if I understand it correctly. It's a supreme energy or the soul. How do we experience our soul? I mean, if it is eternal or if it is the truth has to be here at this moment as well. How do we experience the truth?
As soon as the soul leaves the body, there's no consciousness in the body. The body decomposes, deteriorates. It's the soul that gives us consciousness. The body has no consciousness without the soul. So you experience the soul's presence by consciousness throughout the whole body. When he has a soul in his body, he can make decisions that affect the whole world. He can give scientific theories that change the world. He can make art. He can design buildings. He can do so many things. He can reproduce. As soon as the soul leaves the body, nothing. He can't see, he can't talk, no consciousness. That's a big thing, consciousness. We gave a lecture, we gave a program in the Netherlands back in 1985 at Eindhoven University. It's a university that trains up the scientists for Philips Corporation. And the presentation was on consciousness. And all the professors came, including the heads of the whole university. And they had to admit that they did not have an answer. What was consciousness? They can't put their finger on it. Because they reject the supernatural soul. It's so obvious. It's not just a machine. The body is a machine, but a machine has no life. A machine works as long as there's electricity or batteries or some energy source, but it has no sense of I am, it has no sense of existence. It can only do what it's programmed to do, but it's not alive and it cannot reproduce. So there's a difference between the soul and the body. That's what explains consciousness. And until scientists open their minds to the idea that there's something beyond matter, they'll be bewildered. And they'll be leading the world in the wrong direction. And that's what we're supporting. All of our grant money, all our tax money is going to teach that we're not the body. That we are the body. That life comes from matter. That's where all of our tax, all the money that you give to the endowment funds for the university, it's all being used to teach matter is everything. And that is wrong. That causes big problems in the world.
So, could you just touch on what the perfection of the three subtle energies are? I understand the mind is to be controlled. I suppose that the false ego is to understand that it is the eternal servitor of Krishna, but what is the perfection of intelligence?
To hear from the supremely intelligent person. How do you become intelligent? You learn. You can learn by experience, but the best way of learning is to learn from someone who knows. So learn from Krishna, he knows everything. Then you'll have full intelligence. Vedic aphorism, yasmin vigatam, evam vigatam bhavati. If one knows Krishna, he knows everything. Krishna is everything, and Krishna knows everything. So if you know Krishna, then you know everything. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Shruno me shrunu, ma shrunu. Hear from me. He's saying, hear from me. Listen carefully. Arjuna is the perfect soul because he listened to Krishna carefully and he learned the entire science of Bhakti Yoga in an hour and a half or whatever. We may not be so expert, we may not be able to learn it so quick. But we should try to follow in the footsteps of Arjuna. See how he learned. Something?
When we learn that we're hearing here that, okay, the living entities, they're struggling with material nature and they're sustaining the universe. So that's me, or that's all the living entities. If there's consciousness somewhere, then there's a soul. So besides just hearing from Krishna, how does that start to change our behaviors, and how can we know?
If you're the soul, then why are you spending all your time taking care of your body? Why don't you spend some time taking care of your soul? All you're doing, all society is doing is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's it. They're not doing anything for the soul because they don't know what the soul is. The soul exists forever. What is it that makes the soul happy? Krishna. Krishna makes the souls happy. And without Krishna, the souls are morose. They're trying to be happy without Krishna. But Krishna is this, he's the reservoir of all pleasure. He is the source of happiness. He is the supreme friend. He is the supreme father. Aham bija pradapita. Suridam sarvabhutanam. He's the object of pleasure, the object of love. What we're looking for is Krishna. What do you think you're looking for in the material world? Even if you say, I'm looking for a nice house overlooking the sea, and a nice car, and a nice family, and good bank balance, those things are just Krishna's energies. But they have to come from somewhere. They come from Krishna. He can give you that, but still, even if you have that, you won't be happy without Him. On a similar note, if you say you want a nice house, but you want someone to share it with. If you were told you can have a nice house on the seashore, but sorry, you won't, no people, no other living entity, just you. But it's a nice house. You're going to say it's a nice house, but no other people? No other living entities? No relationships? How will I love anyone? It's got carpeting, thick pile, carpeting. You'll be comfortable there. But no, we can't be happy without a loving relationship. And the most important relationship is with Krishna. The other relationships are, shall we say, supporting roles. And we can enjoy them too. Just like if you have a father and mother and you get along well with them, then you'll also get along well with their other children, the relatives of the father and the mother. The family becomes an enjoyable situation. So if we have Krishna, the enjoyable center, then we can enjoy all of Krishna's family too. And everyone's part of Krishna's family. So the real enjoyment begins when we recognize the real center, the real source of pleasure. And without that, we won't be happy.
Just the idea you touched on of love. Are loving and being loved equal?
They may be equal, they may not be equal, but we need both. We need to love someone and we need to be loved. And Krishna is the right person for both. Because if you try to get love from someone in this material world, you're going to be frustrated. Because they're thinking you're the body. So they're loving your body, but how long does love for a body last? How much love does someone have for your body when it's in a casket? They love it so much they put it in the ground. It'll stay down there. Or burn it. So love for the body doesn't last very long. But love for the soul is eternal. Yes?
Hare Krishna. So I had a question about doubt.
About?
Doubts. Krishna says that for the doubting soul there is happiness neither in this life nor the next. So I'm wondering, what exactly is a doubt?
If you doubt Krishna, if you doubt the scriptures, that's what it means. It doesn't just mean I have a doubt whether there's 2 leaves on that tree or 3. It means you have doubt, you don't accept what the Vedas say or what Krishna says.
So we may think, I may think that I'm accepting that I'm not this body, and I hear these arguments, and I hear, I may even speak to other people about these arguments that we're a soul and not the body. But it almost seems like, I may not be completely convinced. So what is it that actually relieves that doubt, that fully?
Transcendental knowledge. And devotional service, because there may be someone who hears, but he doesn't engage in devotional service, so he doesn't realize. He still has doubts. So that's why we hear from the proper source and we engage in devotional service to our best capacity. And then that's the process. Then our faith increases. Adho Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha Tato Bhajana Kriya Tato Anartha Nivritti Syat Nishta Ruchi Asakti Bhava Prema. We develop love of God gradually by this process. This is the process of getting free from doubts. Devotional service.
So when you say this is the process, you mean
Krishna consciousness.
right now?
Krishna consciousness. That's the process. That's always the process. It's Sanatana Dharma. It's the eternal function of the soul to engage in loving devotional service to Krishna.
What do we do to increase Krishna consciousness?
Well, depends on what stage we're on. But a kind of a summary, or shall we say, the summary of what to do to increase our Krishna consciousness is to increase our association with advanced devotees. Because that with their association, we'll get inspiration, we'll get reciprocation, we'll get guidance. We need that. It's difficult to do by ourselves. So we need that association. And that's what's lacking in the material world, for the most part, is we don't have that association. But the International Society for Krishna Consciousness was developed for that purpose, to provide that kind of association. So we should take advantage of that as quickly as possible, because we don't know what's going to happen next in this world, in our life. We don't know what's going to happen. So we want to get connected with that Krishna consciousness, that yoga with Krishna as soon as we can. As soon as we get the opportunity, we should take it.
Thank you.
Yes. Is that a question, Ben?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So, can we mix Krishna consciousness and our daily activities, material life, like half and half? Like try to enjoy also a little and practice Krishna consciousness also?
You can enjoy household a lot in Krishna consciousness. You don't need to mix it with material consciousness. It's like water. If you have fresh, clear spring water, you don't need to mix in some filthy, disgusting things to make it better. That doesn't improve it. In other words, household life is fine. Krishna was a householder. There are so many examples of great acharyas who were householders. They were happy in householder life and at the same time perfectly Krishna bhaktas. So there's no bar from being a perfectly happy, spiritual person in family life. But it's a science. We can learn the science from personalities like Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. If you see this portrait here, the fourth one over from the right, he was a householder, had 10 children. He was a magistrate, but a perfectly Krishna conscious devotee. He was an acharya. He was leading the whole world in Krishna consciousness. Wrote many, many books, organized huge Krishna conscious program. And his family supported him. They all did it together. Okay, thank you for that question. We have a few more minutes. Yes.
So what if somebody says, well, I don't know about this Krishna, but...
Well, learn about this Krishna. That's the thing. You don't know about Krishna. Therefore we have so many books, we have so much to teach you. It's worth learning about Krishna.
But I love God. I don't know Krishna, but... I mean, I don't like your books because you're talking about this Krishna, but I love God.
But you don't know that Krishna is God. Yeah, see? So you're still missing something. There's a disconnect there. You don't know Krishna. When you learn who Krishna is, he couldn't be anyone but God. You know what the description of Krishna is? You can give description, Shadaishvarya, 6 opulences.
Krishna is all famous, and he has all knowledge. He is the most beautiful, and he is the most renounced person, and he is the most
Powerful and rich
and wealthy. Yeah.
Not only is he the most beautiful, he has all beauty. So who else could be that person who has all beauty, all wealth, all fame, all knowledge, all renunciation? Who other than God could be that person? And if you say, I don't know Krishna, but I'm sure he's not God, that's a kind of a funny statement. You don't know someone, how do you know what he is or what he isn't? First get to know Krishna, then decide whether he's God. And first get to understand what you mean by God. Is God a person?
I talk to him and ask him for things.
Okay, so yes, he is a person.
But how do you know what he looks like?
Because he has been seen by persons and they've described him. It's not that no one's seen him. So, persons who have seen him have described what he looks like. We know he has complexion like the atasi flower. Anyone from India know what the atasi flower looks like? It's the color of sky blue. Scriptures say his complexion is like the atasi flower. And he has eyes like lotus petals, beautiful black hair. He plays a flute, but not just ordinary flute. His flute playing is so extraordinary that when one hears it, he becomes transcendently amazed, makes one go into ecstasy. So the descriptions are there in the scriptures. That's how we know. We don't speculate. We don't imagine. We hear from the authoritative scriptures what he looks like. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you everybody for